Hey guys, this is Jay Calder with JAYONBOXING, and these are my 5 boxing resolutions for 2024. And of course, before we get into it, be sure to like and subscribe, hit that follow button, slap that notification bell, uppercut the share button, whatever you guys do. I greatly appreciate it all. It means a lot to me. It definitely helps out the channel. Getting into it, around this time of year, some folks, myself included, for example, take some time to make resolutions for the new year, a list of things you want to work on, to improve, or to maintain heading into the next 365 days. Well, I decided maybe something a little bit different for the channel. I was going to do that for us boxing fans, a list of areas that we maybe can do a bit better on in 2024. So, no more rambling, let's get into them. Resolution number 1. Stop hating on fighters for losing. Now, this is one that constantly gets to me, and it's just because it's counterproductive to the sport as a whole and really makes no sense from a fan's perspective. Now, don't get me wrong, root for whomever you choose, get passionate about it, but the moment a fighter loses, all you hear is exposed, fraud, a bum. That's gotta stop. This usually stems from conversations with other boxing heads where you're kind of both taking a stand. You pick Crawford, he's got Spence. Crawford handles him, and suddenly you get out of pocket talking down on Spence like he's nothing. And we all probably are a bit guilty of this from time to time, but it does need to stop. For starters, it discredits the fighter you like, which makes no sense. How much credit can you give someone for beating a fraud? You're doing harm to the one you're rooting for. It really doesn't make a lot of sense, so you have to kind of stop for that reason alone. Just because you want to troll some dork on Twitter makes no sense. It's dumb. I also strongly believe that this culture of writing boxers off the moment they lose contributes to fighters not wanting to take risks or chances. They don't want to be the meme. They don't want to be made fun of or ridiculed. They don't want to cost themselves a bigger fight down the road, so they'd rather not take the risk until way late in their careers where they probably can't rebound from those risks nearly as well as if they were younger. So it definitely doesn't make any sense for them. Why are you going to take the chance if it means you're going to lose a ton of credibility to a lot of fans and cost yourself big fights down the line? We need to start encouraging fighters to take fights maybe a little sooner than we have in the past, and not to protect their records. That really doesn't matter nearly as much as people want it to. Yes, fighters need to do their part on this one as well, but we don't help the cause just looking for a reason to hate on a single blemish on someone's record. And resolution number 2, don't give your favorites a pass. So often, we fans judge fighters we don't root for with the harshest of eyes. They gotta do this, they gotta do that, beat this guy, win this title in this way, jump through these hoops. But when it comes time to judge our favorites, not so much. Case in point, just an example, Gervonta Davis. Now, I like Davis. Tank's a solid fighter, could be great. But to know how great, he has to fight threats, guys that will push him, challenge him. Yet, his fans give him far too many passes. His diehard fans, as we speak, are making excuses for why he shouldn't fight Devin Haney at 140 pounds because he's just too big. Him being Haney is too big. Yet, both make weight and follow those same rules. But for some reason, Haney should fight under different rules with Tank, according to his fans, because he deserves them for whatever reason. He's the A-side, bigger star, whatever it is, he deserves better rules that better suit his chances. However, many of these same Tank fans said nothing about Haney being much bigger than George Kambosos or Vasily Lomachenko, just seemed to be happy that Devin Haney won. Interesting. Here's an idea. Be consistent. If it was okay in those fights, it should be okay for Tank, a guy that has fought at a higher weight than those two to begin with at 140 pounds, which is where he would fight Haney to begin with. Okay? Again, this is just an example, but a good rule of thumb for these types of situations is simple. Judge your favorites the way you would judge your least favorites, and your least favorites as you would judge your favorites. Usually, this will mean that you judge everyone a little bit more in the middle there and with a much steadier hand. And resolution number 3, judge with your head, not your heart. Now, to me, this really is all about scorecards. Granted, a fan's opinion won't change the outcome, and once the real tallies are read, my thought, your thoughts, inconsequential on the verdict in a fight. That being said, we gotta start being more honest with these scores, okay? It just makes you look silly when you're going out here and lying. You'll have guys talking about close fights, saying things like, oh, the other guy didn't barely want a round. He didn't do anything in that fight against their guy because it protects them in their mind. When anyone that watched the fight knows this isn't true. Yes, boxing is a subjective sport, and when it comes to scorecards, it's even more subjective. It's kind of what you see. I understand that. But fans that have been around for a while and know the sport a bit more see when someone like this is exaggerating, and they're doing it just to make a better case for their guy, and it gets nauseating. The problem is also, it doesn't really help your case. Because when I hear that, it actually makes me think your favorites did worse because you feel a need to compensate for them by lying this way, and it makes me question your judgment about the sport in general. How is that a good thing for you? All because you want to emotionally claim someone won by a larger gap than they likely did? Come on. Judge with your head. Be honest. Be sincere. Think who you won the fight. I can't change that, nor do I really care to, but at least have an honest conversation about it, as opposed to just trying to make up nonsensical rounds that your fighter won simply because you're trying to strengthen your argument. It's silly. And also, something of a side note, but somewhat related. If you and I are debating a close fight and your response is, well, who won the fight? I get it, your guy won the fight. That's not really what we're debating, but fine. You can use that argument. Just be consistent about that when you disagree with the judges in the future, and I happen to use it against you. And resolution number 4, focus on boxing, not business. This is a trend that's probably happened since the Mayweather era, to be perfectly honest, and I just can't stand it. I can't stand when fans talk about purses more than good fights, Forbes list, who made more, buy rates, etc. Can't stand it. I get it. When you follow the sport, you know that those kind of numbers impact the politics of the sport and the way it runs. The fights that get made, the moments we get to witness, I understand. That said, you're in a Facebook group or some thread on social media and it's all people want to bring up. Like they have points on the back end of the pay-per-view or something. It doesn't impact you that way. Stop talking about it so much. Worry about your own money. Similar to stop hating on fighters for losing, we need to stop praising fighters for their business acumen and success, especially if it comes in place of the fights we want, rather than because of the fights we want. I will always support fighters wanting to be properly compensated. I will also not really care about what that number is exactly. I just want them to make that number in fights I give a damn about. You shouldn't be happy because a boxer is making millions of dollars for a fight that will be viewed by so little. You should be rooting for fights to be made, not for how much a fighter makes. When people, again, bringing it back to Mayweather, we're rooting for and cheering for him, claiming to rob the bank in these easy fights. Yeah, that's not a good thing. The bank he's robbing is yours, you fool. Fight good fights, get good money, and that should be your mantra for who you support in boxing. Worrying about any of the other business should be off limits because it really doesn't impact you in that way. And resolution number 5, spend your boxing bucks wisely. And this is the final resolution, possibly because it's the most important in some ways, but regardless. And when I say bucks, I have to also say this. Yes, I mean money, but I also mean your time and your attention. Time and attention are as much a currency as anything else, and you shouldn't be wasting it any more than you're trying to waste a dollar. I believe in supporting the sport. Local shows, go to them. Big fights, go to them, watch them. Favorite fighters, have them. What I don't support is hyping up or paying for fights and events that are simply too subpar to support. I get the fighters need in between fights to build and come back, shake off rust, or kind of hone their craft a bit. I agree they should take those fights. I just don't think we need to have every one of those fights be presented like it means something more than it actually does, or that it should be a main event, or that I should have to pay for it, or that it should be a part of the primary portion of a pay-per-view card when I should have a more competitive fight in its spot. Now, am I saying don't watch these fights at all? Of course not. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think that's actually the answer. But just know that accepting subpar stuff in those more prominent positions feeds the problem. Conversely, support the shows that do matter. If a fight deserves your attention, let it have it. Demand those fights, then show up for them with that pocketbook. Obviously within your means. We can't afford every single pay-per-view that's dished out, but if you find one that really piques that curiosity, you need to support it to get it consistently. Just the way it works. And if I was making this list for the boxing industry, of course, one resolution would be for them to make high-level boxing more affordable. But at the very least, do what you can to support the sport when it deserves it. Still, in all, what I'm trying to say here is when something is worth your time and money, reward it. That has a much better chance of starting a trend of better fights than just accepting whatever a network airs or puts on pay-per-view. But in any event, those are my resolutions, of course. What do you guys agree with, disagree with? Drop them in the comments and let me know some of yours about boxing as well. Let me know all of your boxing resolutions. Check out the social media here. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, all that good stuff. And of course, be sure to visit JAYONBOXING.com for results, schedule, betting odds, rankings, grades, all that good stuff. And as always, until next time.